what I was loving, I watched that little video of yours today, the one where you were talking about charter schools.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have 3 kids who all went to charter schools.
Yes. I have 3 daughters, 15, 17, and 24. So, yes, all 3 of them went to charter schools. And I never really understood that there was opposition against charter schools. I thought everybody just loved charter schools. And I didn't really realize until I got into politics that there are people who hate charter schools. And so when I think about the fact that President Trump is pro choice, pro school choice, I'm just like, I don't understand how anyone could vote against him for that reason alone. The schools here, we have several charter schools and they're all predominantly Black, or most of them are predominantly Black. So I'm just thinking, how do you feel like that's okay to take that choice from those parents who are trying to provide a better education for their children? Because when I was 26 and my daughter was going into kindergarten, it like I was happy that I didn't have the money to afford to send her to private school, but I was happy that I had another choice besides traditional public schools, because I was terrified. I didn't want her going into a traditional public school from what I saw with the kids, and some of them, the way they behave, I didn't want her there. So I was glad that I had another choice. And so, although my youngest child is 15 and they all filtered into public schools for high school, I want other parents to have that same choice. So I'm still for school choice because I think it's just so important.
What was your experience when you first were doing that? I've heard that it's all lottery based. Is that what it was?
When she first went into school, it wasn't. It is now, but it wasn't when she first went in. It was a brand new charter for this area. So in her class, I think there was like 13 kids, and I think 3 of them were Black. So it started out a predominantly white school, and it was very small. They had it in a church, but then once she went into first grade, they actually built a building, and it has grown. By the time my youngest daughter came out 2 years ago, it was predominantly Black. So it had changed, but it was great because I guess more parents realized that they had another option besides the public schools. And I just thought it was very hands-on. I was like, I actually ended up working there because I was there so much volunteering,
Right.
that they ended up finding me a job because it was just so hands-on. I was so involved. It was like a small family, the charter school community, that particular school. I don't know. Everyone that I know that attends charter schools seems to love it, but that school in particular, they got on my nerves sometimes because I am one of those helicopter moms. And when you would have administration to, someone new would come in, then they had to get familiar with me all over again.
Right.
So I did run into some problems sometimes. I
Sure.
was banned once.
You're on the right show.
Right. But I had to let them know, no, I am that parent. I want to be involved in my child's education process, and you're not going to keep me out of here because, again, you would have someone new that came to the school that didn't know who Shemeka Michelle was, but I made sure that they quickly found out.
Did the helicopter parenting, as you put it, did that come from your parents? Were they that type of parent as well, or was it something you were modeled in some other way?
I don't think my mom was. I mean, she was involved, but so I'm a product of rape. My mother had me, she was raped at 14. I was born when she was 15. So I had a very young mother, but she was always physically present. Like I remember her being at PTA meetings and at games and being involved, not as much as I was. Like she wasn't bringing cupcakes to the school like I was, and feeding the teachers. Like that was me. I was there volunteering and running off papers and checking grading papers. She wasn't that involved, but I think the helicopter parent maybe came from watching TV. I don't know, just looking at, I don't, Carol Brady or June Cleaver. I don't know. I think just wanting to be there is crazy, because even when I was in college, my major was biology, and people would always say, well, what do you want to do? And I would say, be a housewife. So it was like, though I was in college, I knew that I wanted to be a housewife and be there for my husband and be there for my children. And I guess it came from TV, because I didn't grow up with a father. My grandfather wasn't in the home. So my grandmother would always say to me, when she would watch me serve my husband's plate, she would say, I don't know where you got that from, because you didn't get it from me. So I don't know. It must have been TV.
When you were growing up, I mean, I know how often, I was going to say, has this ever happened? But I'm going to say it's probably definitely happened. How many times have women tried to pressure you to not, or like look down on you for what you would say? Things like, I want to be a housewife. Was that ever some pressure that you got, or?
I think once I got older, not when I was younger, because I think people probably just thought, okay, she's crazy. Like 18, nobody really takes life seriously. So when I was saying that at 18, 19 years old, they were like, okay. But
Right.
at 30, I do feel like sometimes women would say something, in little slick ways, as if which I do think that I lost myself. Now, let me be honest. I do feel like I lost myself in my husband and my children when I was married. But I loved being a housewife. I loved being a mom. And so I do think women would kind of give little digs, because especially if they worked outside of the home, or if they were business owners, they would give little digs to me as if I should be doing more, which I do think at times I could have been doing more, but I don't regret being present for my kids and being available to them when they got out of school, to help them with homework and to make dinner for them. I don't regret, being able to see them off to school and in the mornings and waking them up. My two youngest kids are still in the house, 15 and 17, and I still sing them a good night song every night.
Yeah.
And I just don't regret that. Like, it's been great. And hopefully, they won't turn out to be bums. It'll
Yeah.
it'll be, like, I'll be able to see the fruit of my labor, and that it'll be good fruit.
Right. There's something that this is, as much as I want to like be anti-identity politics, or maybe this is not identity politics, but I do think that certain there's some, especially community-wise, like Black mothers have a severity. They have a severeness. They get a little intense when it comes to like when they want to like really get, Kevin Hart talks about it in his book, how his older brother started selling drugs and started stealing and his mom like locked him down, and how he had a resentment towards his mom. Why can't I do anything? My older brother got to do everything. And she's like on the bus with him to swim meets and to this. Right. And she had a severity where like, no, this is not going to happen. And had a, was not right. afraid of the not afraid of confrontation.
Right, definitely.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying all white moms have that fear of confrontation, but a lot of, at least what we see on TV is like this idea that like, oh, whatever you say, and no, Dakota, please don't hit him. There's a lot of that running around. Right. I've been helped a lot in my life by structure,
Right, definitely. My kids call me Mama Bear. So when things go wrong at school, I can be so bad that sometimes they'll say like, no, Mom, don't worry about it. I got it. Like, I'll handle it, because they know I am going to come in and I'm willing to rip someone's throat out, chew it up and spit it back in their face over my children. Like, I just do not play when it comes to my kids. So, yeah. And I want them to, I sometimes listen to parents when they say, yeah, and so snuck a boy in. And I'm thinking, well, what kind of mama are you? Because my child would never even think about, like, my children wouldn't even try to sneak a boy into the home, or, go out and be smoking or doing something that they know I would just totally not approve of. And I feel confident in saying that because they know that, I can, you know, not be wrapped so tight.
Yeah.
And they're afraid. And I'm fine with them being a little afraid of me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. There's
Yeah.
I've been working on this idea because I've seen a lot of these liberal people. Like, I feel like the animus, the juice underneath a lot of liberal, not all, but a lot of liberalness, and especially the real stubborn ones, is an anger at authority. They're still mad at their dad. They're still mad at that bully at school. They're still mad at whatever, and they haven't done the processing work to get the fuck over it. And so they're just projecting that on Trump, on
Yep.
on police, on any authority at all. And they just think, if we just wash our hands of all authority and all structure, if we just tear it all down, we'll build it all back better. And it's just insane, man. It's just insane.
Is. And I think that's why it's so funny, because I'll see people like having this animosity towards the police, and everybody's acting like, oh, he was such a great kid. And I'm like, probably not. This was probably the child that was in school that when you said, I'm going to call your mama, he said, call my mama.
Right.
So, like, please, this whole, disrespect for authority starts in the home. I've watched it. I see these kids. I worked at a school, so I see these kids be disrespectful to the teacher, disrespectful to the principal. When they call the mama comes in, and the mama has no respect for anyone, and she just sees that her child does no wrong. And these are the kids that end up going out, getting into confrontations with police, and get shot.
Right.
Sorry, I know that's not the popular thing to say, but these are the kids a lot of times that end up behind bars, or dead.
Right. I had a anonymous San Francisco teacher on my show. Everyone go watch that episode. And she talked about how she's, a nice little liberal white girl. And she talked about how white guilt in San Francisco public schools is actually hurting Black kids. Because what would happen is more Black kids, especially, actually, I think it was equal Black girls and boys, would end up in detention. And so what the white liberals in the administration decided, what we're going to do is we're just not going to have them go to detention at all.
Oh, yeah.
We're just not going to have any consequence at all. And so therefore, all these Black girls are literally like on their phone. This is like 7th, 8th grade, just on their phone the whole time. And you can't take their phone. That's personal property. You can't reprimand it. You can't, all you can do is say, hey, parent, and have a little sit down, and the parent will hopefully maybe do a consequence. It's like, that white guilt is actually hurting Black kids.
It is. I've seen them. So there were kids at the school I worked with in 1st grade that had to have an adult go, like, be with them all day, because they may just get so angry that they want to start throwing books or throwing chairs. And so there had to be an adult that, went with them all day. Like, I never saw that type of stuff growing up. Right. So when did it become okay? Like, for children, literally, there was a child who used the bathroom on himself. This smart kid, very smart, like, could carry on a conversation with you, purposely used the bathroom and took and smeared feces on the wall. And it was, oh, it's nothing we can do. Or no, like, where are these kids coming from that all of a sudden can't sit in class? And I know we hear, oh, they have ADD or ADHD or whatever. No, what they had when I was growing up was a lack of discipline. What they lacked was maybe a good spank on the behind, or, like, now they're running rampant in the schools, and it's not helping, because when they go out into the real world, no one cares whether or not they had someone walking with them in school. No one says, did you have to have a helper in second grade? You know, did you get so angry and mad that you needed somebody to hold your hand? No one cares. By the time you're 17 and you're out here acting like a jackass, you're going to be penalized for that. And so I think it does the kids a huge disservice to not discipline them at this young age when it's needed. You know, I just think it's terrible, and it's not helping anyone.
Right. And there are the rare cases that she was also talking about. There are the rare cases that actually genuinely have, autism or a different,
Right.
And there's obviously spectrums and whatever. But sometimes rather than give them a diagnosis and get them with the people who can help them or with the meds that can help them, oh, that's going to die. They're going to have a stigma. And so we don't want to stigmatize. And so we're going to stick them in this class. Well, all these other kids,
right,
they need help too. Like they need attention too. They need someone. So if we slow everything down just to meet this one person's needs, now all these other kids are bored or distracted or, whatever. It's crazy.
That's what I liked about charter schools, though. I know that there are some parents that didn't like the grouping in the charter schools. Of course, I loved it because my children were always in the above average class. But there were some parents whose children were in what was considered the below average class, and they didn't like it because they felt like being around kids that were all underperforming, it didn't make their child want to do more. But as someone whose children was in, the above average, I didn't want them with the, lower performing students because I wanted them to be challenged. I don't want them to have to come in there and wait for the person, it's taking them 3 years to know that 2 + 2 = 4. I don't want them with that. But that's what I liked about the charter school because they did grouping according to ability. So I was one of those that liked that.
Yeah, Chris Rock.
Maybe, but whatever.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think at that point, then that's a conversation, and I don't have kids, so what the hell do I know? But I think that's a conversation then between the parent and the kid to be like, I know the brain is telling you, oh, I don't want to try now. But Chris Rock tells a story about going to this basketball game and his daughter being benched and how his wife was like, now ex-wife or whatever, was like mad at the coach. Like, you should have put him in. And he was like, there's a way to get in the game. She could be better. You know what I mean? If she put in practice, if she put in work, how come all these other kids are not benched? Because they put in a lot of work. So if you want to get there, you can but that's a conversation you have with your kids and with your partner to build up that culture.
Right. Definitely. I remember my daughter was cheering and she called and was like, Mom, they had went to a cheer competition and she was like, Mom, we won second place. And I was like, oh my God, that's great. How many teams was in it? And she said 2. And I said, you didn't win second place, you lost.
Right.
Like, I hate to steal your joy, but if it's just 2 teams, there was a winner and there was a loser, period.
Right. And Asian
second place.
Right. Asian moms get a bad rap for being like, oh, you can never impress them. And I'm not saying abuse, kids or whatever. Or like be mentally, never give them a gold star or a hug or any of that stuff. But there's a reason why Asian countries, especially Asians that come here, are fucking killing it. They're killing it in every aspect of life because they had the structure and they learned they had the culture of, put your head down and work. No one's going to give it to you. You need to work for it.
No participation trophies.
Right.